have a packed show today, with announcements for Path of Exile 2, as well as the exclusive unveiling of Path of Exile Affliction, which launches on December 8th on PC and Mac, and on December 13th on console.
Twitch drops are enabled on today's live stream, so make sure you follow the
干，等一下，
instructions
弹
below
幕
in
是
order
怎
to
样啊
claim your Huntsman wings. We'll start with Path of Exile 2, where Jonathan will walk you through
可以。
our latest announcements.
我们
Mark
这边
will
把
then
抖那
take
一
you
条
on a
变不
deep
见。
dive into the new Path of Exile Affliction Challenge League, which launches in 1 week. He'll cover the league mechanics, its rewards, some new content we're adding to the core Path of Exile experience, and some large metagame changes. I'll then show you our annual core supporter packs, and we'll head into our live Q&A session where Ggg will ask us your questions from Twitch chat.
流放之路降临跟流放之路迷虫之物，所以现在是确定有两个大的东西了。
Jonathan Rogers, Game Director of Path of Exile 2.
Hey guys, it's been a few months since we introduced you to the Druid in Path of Exile 2. But one of the things we're really focusing on now is how varied each of the classes feels to play.
对不起，
The monk darts around quickly,
所以这还是在讲 POE 2的
building
东
and
西啊。
unleashing combos. If he doesn't stay in combat, he loses momentum and has to build it up
POE
again.
2 POE 降临就是流放之路降临就是 POE 2，对不起，我刚刚讲错了。
The warrior, on the other hand, is like a slow but unstoppable freight train. A warrior commits to big attacks and relies on stunning his enemies to stay
他
safe
现在
in
讲
the
的
thick of
这些
combat.
职业
When
都
an
是
opening
在
presents itself, a warrior can use even larger
Excel
attacks
上面有
to
提供
demolish
试
his
玩的。
enemies.
等一下应该会画风一转，然后去介绍
The
那个
huntress seamlessly moves
新
from
的，
melee to
就是他
ranged
们这次
combat and back.
有预告的
The
那
true damage
个
potential of the
雇佣
huntress is
兵。
only unlocked when you learn to combine ranged and melee abilities together. And then there are the spellcasters. The sorceress is a pure caster who much prefers to stay at range and drop powerful spells on her foes. If she finds herself surrounded by enemies, she would rather use an ability to escape than to take them on directly. The druid is also a spellcaster, but unlike the sorceress, he uses his spells as a means to support his melee abilities. And by melee abilities, we mean he can turn into a giant animal and rip his enemies to pieces.
有女一族，有女联盟。
Each of these classes feels extremely different to play, but we want to go even further. It's time to check out the mercenary.
There's not a job out there I won't take, so long as the pay's good and a crossbow can solve it.
My crossbow can save it. 雇佣兵，雇佣兵。
I'll take them all down, one bolt at a time.
When thinking about each new class, we really try to think about how we can make combat feel different from all the others. For the mercenary, that difference is the crossbow. A crossbow is fundamentally different than a regular bow because it fires instantly instead of needing to be drawn back. This means that you need immediate feedback. Clicking the fire button should make the character shoot instantly, just like in a shooter. As soon as we experienced that, we realized that there are a lot of design lessons to learn from shooters, and so we fully embraced them. In Path of Exile 2, we have crossbows that work like sniper rifles, shotguns, and assault rifles. But in order to really get shooter-like gameplay, we wanted to go further. In Path of Exile 2, we now support WASD movement. You can now walk around in any direction independent of aiming. In fact, if this is your preferred method of gameplay, you can use it on any class, regardless of what weapon type you're using. You can change between click to move or WASD at any time. You can only hold 2 crossbows at a time, but Path of Exile 2 is all about interesting combinations of abilities, and this is where ammo skills come in. This is a burst shot crossbow, and right now I have armor piercing ammo equipped, which makes it very effective when facing a group of enemies, since it pierces right through them.
你没有看到右下角这
But
边
there
有
are other
不
ammos
同的
too.
技能在
For a
转
bigger
吗？
single
像
target,
光
it
环那
might
样
be a good
的，
idea to switch to
就是它
incendiary.
loading 了不同
The
类型
more
的子
projectiles
弹。
hit the target, the stronger the ignite, so you'll want to get up nice, close and personal with this one. If you have a bunch of targets running at you, you might want to slow them down. In this case, you could switch to permafrost burst shot. Shooting a bunch of smaller enemies at range will chill them and potentially even freeze them in place. Once you have some frozen enemies though, you can switch back to armor piercing. Shooting a frozen enemy with armor piercing burst shot will explode the ice, doing a huge amount of damage to all nearby enemies.
还有一个有趣的事情是，那个子弹究竟是直接去改变技能的伤害，还是帮助你转伤？
This is a grenade launcher.
虽然我
As
觉
you
得应
can
该是
see,
转
when
伤
I
啊，
equip
应该
it,
是
it appears on the underside of the crossbow.
为主。
These attachments are just like skill gems, so you effectively get extra skill slots, and you can augment these with support gems, just like regular skills.
配件。
These grenades take a while to explode, so it's a good idea to pair them with some kind of crowd control, like permafrost burst shot. We have other grenades too though. This attachment is a flash grenade. It does barely any damage, but it does a huge amount of stun. It can be a great opener before you run into combat.
哇，青光眼手榴弹，刷完一整天图直接瞎掉。那我这个墨镜真的是买
Now
对
here's
了。
another attachment, an oil grenade. Firing one of these grenades coats the ground with nearby enemies in oil. Oil slows enemies down.
散打不也是对啊，所以我才不玩散打。实况路近视几度自己讲。
Now, another thing that oil can do is be set on fire. Any burning enemy or explosion will ignite the oil, causing extra burning damage.
你视力越来越好了，你说否极泰来吗？
One of the problems with burst shot crossbows is that each pellet doesn't do much damage individually. This means that if enemies have armor, then it will be very effective preventing that damage. But thankfully, you can equip an additional crossbow in your second weapon set to deal with the weaknesses of your primary weapon. This is a rapid shot crossbow. Rapid shot is great for closing on enemies because you can shoot while running. In Path of Exile 2, we now have the ability to allow you to use some skills while moving. Being able to create skills like this opens up a lot of new design space and allows us to really increase the pace of combat.
哦，看起来好好玩哦！我的天哪！他们光是为弩跟这一连串枪械类的技能就做了这么多的系统，还有配件，还有 loading，
you can easily switch back to burst shot to deal much more damage.
对啊，2087年才上市吧？他们怎么做得完
？is also great for when you want to perform a fighting retreat.
他们怎么做得完
Using permafrost ammo with rapid shot is also useful if you need to retreat. When you shoot the ground, it creates ice crystals. If you draw monsters back over these crystals, they explode, chilling the monsters. It's great if you want to set up a safe zone before pulling the next pack.
没有，那是因为他有停下来理这些怪物啊。
Slowing
他如果都
enemies
不理
down
这
can
些
come
怪
in
物的
handy
话，
if you want
他
to use the
随便就
incendiary
走过去
version of rapid shot. Using this skill requires that you charge up a little bit before it fires, but as it continues to heat up, it will do more and more damage.
看他这不就是专注轻机枪吗？我的天哪！
It has a really large clip size, so you can just keep firing and firing with it. But the other really useful feature is that when the crossbow is heated up, it adds extra fire damage to any grenade that you launch.
随着战弩不断升温，你发射出来的榴弹都会带有火焰伤害。Oh my god！ Oh my god！ 就你知道吗？有这么多的，它有这么多的系统在交互运作。
But it will work equally as well with flash or oil grenades too. If you use it with oil grenades, the oil will catch fire immediately.
燃油会被点燃。你怎么不去玩 FPS 游戏 ？FPS 游戏又不能给你穿一件传奇装备，然后让你可以射10万个人，对不对？这就是刷宝类游戏的爽点。
Another crossbow type that you can find is power shot. This one works just like a classic sniper rifle.
你每次打开游戏登录你的角色都有一把满配的
so it's a good idea to use when something's really tough.
屁啦 ！Apex 的传奇哪是传家宝啊？传家宝就好看而已。
Now this skill has another interesting interaction with armor break. If an enemy has its armor broken, then your power shot hits a weak spot and does a huge amount of single target damage, with a bunch of extra stun for good measure. Now, the incendiary version of power shot is more like a rocket launcher. It does a big explosive blast at a distance. One of the really useful features of this version is that you can explode any grenades that happen to be on the ground.
Interesting.
This combo also works really well with incendiary rapid shot. I'm going to charge up the heat on my crossbow, shoot out a bunch of grenades, and then start the fireworks with a power shot. The ice version of power shot creates frost walls at a distance.
所以这个榴弹就有点像是一个投掷物版本的
The wall segments have other uses too.
陷阱
They
或
get
是
destroyed
地
by
雷嘛，
monsters
但
and
是
they'll
就是
explode, doing a
就是
small
又
amount of
是另
damage.
外一种那种概念。感觉他打图是一定不会抢，但是可能你在打王前，你就是可以一直撒榴弹，一直撒榴弹，然后王出来射一枪。
Now, remember that burst shot combo with frozen enemies we did earlier? That works with ice balls too. Let's put burst shot back on. Now I can fill up this area with ice balls and shoot them with armor-piercing burst shot for a huge amount of damage.
干，你们能想象吗？他们为一种武器做了一个这么完整的系统，而且，如果你们有看 Ggg 的发布会内容的话，很显然，他们是打算帮每一个武器都做一个这样子完整的系统，超疯的，超疯的。 不是我跟各位讲，你们会很在意什么拓荒要多久啊，然后什么的。我只在意一件事，就是这些网，我大概要玩几季，或是玩几只角色才会觉得腻。因为我觉得2代绝对就已经不能按照我们现在对 POE 的了解来想。 POE 2代一定不是那种，就绝对不可能是要让你速通还是干嘛的。它是要让你在玩游戏的每一个过程，就连你是在章节的每一分每一秒，它都想要让你觉得好玩，你知道吗？而且它的这种好玩不是很廉价的，很快捷，就是很速食的那种。他想要给你的好玩是这种很宅的好玩，你知道吗？你要说法环化也好，你要说怎么样也好，就是你必须要更，就是你必须要更宅，它才会变好玩。要这样子。 这样讲是最简单的，就是你必须要，你知道吗？所谓的很宅，就是你要去研究它，你要去练习它，你要去体验它，而不是，就是简单来讲，现在的 POE 有一些好玩是建立在我像一个收割机器一样，我刷了2个小时，像机器人一样刷过去。 然后我赚了这么多钱，我觉得这样很好玩。这种东西在 PoE2 里面，我觉得是完全被牺牲掉的。就是他想要你的好玩是建立在从游戏的架构、游戏的设计、由内而外散发出来的、溢出来的那种那种锋利的那种感觉，你知道吗？的那种好玩。
Well, let's just go ahead and get straight on into it. Here's the trailer for Path of Exile Affliction.
Something moves in the mists. Something sinister. Thorn. Rot. Plague. And claw. The affliction spreads.
黑暗森林法则。
It hungers for more. Tread lightly in the wildwood, which shifts and fights.
干，又是独立地图哦。
Accept our help. The ancient power.
干 roguelike 一个超大的 roguelike 游戏 ，What the fuck？
The spirits that yearn for
一个超大型的独立 roguelike 游戏，
and the heart of evil.
桌游的那种，你们知道吗？
In the dark.
附加职业，守望者，全改造技能 BOSS。
Ready yourself. I will be
时光路猜对了。干你妈的时光路！干你妈的屁啦！屁啦！这个都被你猜到，干你娘！
In the Affliction League, you will encounter sacred wisps, which beckon you to enter overgrown passageways that lead to the Viridian Wildwood. A vile affliction has covered this forest with a foreboding darkness. You'll need to uncover the forest mysteries to put a stop to the source of the affliction. As you approach the darkness, the wisps burn away its affliction. Make sure you tread carefully, because they only have a limited amount of power. But be warned, the darkness is full of cursed monsters that emerge to kill you. As you explore, you might see other types of wisps trapped inside the darkness. The Wildwood is trying to guide you towards clues about its affliction. Follow the trails of wisps by collecting them, and you may uncover many different secrets. New characters to find, shrines, boss battles, and all kinds of new encounters are lurking in the forest just waiting for you to discover them. There are many rewards to earn for those brave enough to seek them.
不是，这是魔兽争霸吧？这是魔兽争霸的战役模式吧？
When the sacred wisps run out of energy, they will return you back to where you came from. Any other types of wisps you have collected will return with you to Rayclast. These wisps, having been saved from the affliction, disperse into the environment and inhabit randomly chosen monsters in the area, increasing their power and also their rewards. The different types of wisps have different effects on monsters, and sometimes more than one type will inhabit a single monster, making the fight even harder and even more rewarding. If this happens to a boss, you could be in for a tough fight, but if you can overcome it, your efforts will not be in vain. Primal Wisps grant an item rarity bonus to inhabited monsters. Wild Wisps grant an item quantity bonus, and Vivid Wisps cause them to drop currency items. If a monster gets all three types, they'll drop more items of a higher rarity and a lot of currency. While exploring the Wildwood, you might find some of the last few Asmeri wanderers who have managed to survive in the forest since it was cursed. Each of them have different survival specializations, and they are willing to teach you if you agree to help them defeat the source of the affliction, the King in the Mists. Choose which of the Asmeri that you will complete quests for to unlock one of 3 new Ascendancy classes, which you can have in addition to your regular Ascendancy class. Up to 8 points for these classes are unlocked as you complete more quests for the Asmeri you are training under. The Warden of Eves can teach you to become a Warden of the Magi, a powerful class that takes advantage of wilderness knowledge. A Warden of the Magi can learn to use tinctures which coat their weapon, granting various powerful effects.
You can equip tinctures in your flask slots and toggle them on and off at will. You can only have one enabled at a time, but the effects are quite conditional, so you may want to have more than one equipped and swap between them during combat. For example, equip the Ironwood Tincture to gain the benefit of always stunning enemies on full life. Tinctures can also get random mods. This one in particular adds stacks of wither to targets on full life, and steals frenzy charges on hit, which makes it great as an initiator. When you are fighting rare monsters or finishing off tough bosses, you will want to swap to the Oak Branch Tincture, which grants Culling Strike, increased damage against enemies on low life, and has a chance to steal a mod from rare enemies you kill. You can buy more tinctures from the Warden of Eves using Primal Wisps when you find her in the forest, so keep an eye out for her. As a Warden of the Magi gains more Ascendancy points, they gain access to more skills that let them further specialize in tinctures. For example,
你想当药娘吗？
allows you to invest in
人人都可以当药娘。
This Ascendancy skill makes it important to think
药
about which
娘
slots
联
your
盟
tinctures are placed in, and what flasks they are adjacent to. You'll have better uptime on those flasks, and they'll be stronger
真的。
as a result. But there are plenty more skills to choose, even if you don't want to engage with
喝
tinctures.
水联盟
For example, another new ability
谁说
to
会砍
unlock is Bark Skin.
砍啊，这样也算砍吧
It's？a
每个人都
regulation
是
skill
药
that
娘，爱
causes
玩
bark
药
to
娘
grow
装
all over your
小
body,
脑残
increasing
是
armor. As you take damage, the bark falls
大
off,
家一起
increasing
buff，
your
那对药
evasion.
娘来说就是 nerf 啊。
Over time, the bark will grow back, removing the evasion bonus but increasing your armor again. The Breaker of Oaths can teach you to become a Warlock of the Mists, an Ascendancy class specializing in the darker arts of the Izmeri. One powerful ability you can choose is Blood Hunt, which grants an active skill called Ravenous. This skill lets you see what type a monster is under its life bar, whether it is a demon, beast, undead, construct, or humanoid. Consuming a corpse with the skill gives a buff to damage against that type of monster, and reduces damage taken by it. You can only have one type active at a time, so it's a good idea to choose wisely for the area that you are in. Some bosses like the Maven are eldritch in nature and don't conform to the regular corpses that you have access to, but don't worry. The Breaker of Oaths has a shop where you can trade wild wisps for corpses that you can place on the ground wherever you are. Buy an Eldritch Corpse and you will be able to get the bonus while fighting Eldritch entities like the Maven. You may notice that most of the corpses he sells are not monsters you normally encounter. You might want to try turning some of these corpses into specials,
射出弹
to
幕
take
箭
advantage of
矢
some of the unique abilities that these monsters have.
What?
The Warlock of the Mists gets access to many other abilities. For example, there is a trio of curses that you can pick from. One of these curses targets your minions, giving them life degen and making them explode for massive damage when they are near death.
更强的自爆火灵
One of them prevents enemies from dealing damage for the latter portion of its duration, which is quite powerful against bosses. This curse creates the interesting build decision of whether or not you should increase curse duration or reduce it.
在诅咒的后半时间不会造
The
成
final
伤
curse is
害
a mark that causes
傻
enemy
小
phantasms to be spawned when you hit the marked enemy. These phantasms aren't on your side, so they work well with on-hit and on-kill trigger effects, for example.
击中敌人时产生敌人的幻影
The Primal Huntress can teach you to become a Wildwood Primalist. Unlike the other new ascendancies, the Primal Huntress lets you customize your tree.
Huh? What?
You do this with charms that you can buy from the Primal Huntress for Vivid Wisps.
太多
Charms have randomly
资讯
generated mods, which give stats from regular ascendancy classes,
太多
allowing you to create your own
太
hybrid
多
ascendancy
创意
class. Charms are magic
无法
items that are aligned with
无
different
法
attributes.
操
So
作
for
业
example, this Ursine charm is strengthened and has gotten the melee hits have a chance to fortify stat from the champion, and the ability to stop your movement speed going below base from the Juggernaut. This Interline Corvine charm lets you get the stat that makes your consecrated ground effects linger from the Inquisitor, and the effect that makes cursed enemies explode from the Occultist.
秘术加判官
Some of the combination of mods that you might find for sale on charms can be extremely powerful, so keep a lookout for the Primal Huntress's shop even if you are not
你
playing
直接
as a
偷
Primalist.
别人的升华
As a primalist, you also get access to a few other interesting abilities. Use war cries next to corpses and they have a chance to drop an extra item. It opens nearby chests too. The primalist also gets access to a small extra backpack, just in case you find yourself needing to cart more items to town during your map run.
额外的路服的流放
If
之
you are
路。
unhappy with the class you picked, or you just happen to find a really great item for another one of the classes, you are able to change which class you are using next time you find one of the Asmeri Wanderers. Just remember that you will have to do their quests in order to gain the ascendancy points for that class. These quests will lead you towards the ultimate goal of the Asmeri,
朵拉联
finding the
盟
king in the mists, defeating him, and cleansing the forest of its affliction once and for all. There are new uniques to find, rewards to claim, and new ascendancy classes to master in the Affliction League. Now that we've covered what's in the League, let's talk about some of the changes you can expect to the core game in 3.23. For a start,
第一趴我10
Ultimatum
分
is
先给
finally
9 分
going core. When
9.5
talking to players
分
at ExileCon, it was the #1 feature that people requested. When playing through in-game
真的
maps,
假的
you
啦？
may
这个
sometimes
机制
encounter
干，你们之前在玩的时候明明就
It
一直
offers
嘴
you
这
a
个机
choice
制
to。undertake a deadly Val trial in exchange for great rewards.
奇怪嘞，就是要人家
If you defeat
退
the
核心
trial,
了，
it
然后
offers
又
to
不
go
进
double
核
or
心，你
nothing.
们才会珍惜。
Do you take the risk and go
这
for
局
an
我
even
没有玩
better
哦。
reward, or do you take
这局
the
我没有
winnings
玩。
you have already earned off the table and go home? We've done a full rebalance of Ultimatum and have
哦，
added
你们
many new mods and rewards, including both new and reworked uniques. The base number of rounds for an Ultimatum trial is now always 10, with a chance to spawn the
品质
trial
上
master
升为
boss fight on the
200%，
10th
傻
round,
小。
if you are able to make it that far. As part of 3.23, we have also removed Metamorph from the game. All the Catalyst rewards from Metamorph have now been moved to be rewards for Ultimatum. We have also added a new Val-themed Catalyst that works on corrupted items. As is normal for most content that gets added to
催化剂
in-game, we
等一
have
下
introduced
催
new
化剂是什
Ultimatum
么系
passive
统？
skills to the Atlas tree.
炼
One
魔
great
遗
example is the
嘱，
Keystone Grueling Gauntlet. It makes ultimatums last 3 extra rounds, but you cannot
联
choose the
魔拜
modifiers, and it prevents the
拜。
final Trial Master boss fight
哦，
from
联
spawning.
魔拜
The
拜，
level
是
of challenge
狂
becomes
怒
extreme
直
during
接
the last 3
疯
rounds,
掉。
and not being able to choose the
哦，拜
modifiers makes it even
拜
harder.
哦，
The
拜
rewards are insane, and for
拜，
those with very high-end characters, it might be a bet worth
是
making.
狂怒要
There are lots of
疯
other Atlas passive
了。
skills you can pick from for Ultimatum, so choose wisely. Now, it's time to talk about one of the largest metagame changes we've ever made. There were 3 systems in Path of Exile that were all trying to subtly modify the behavior of skills. These were alternate quality gems, Labyrinth Helmet enchants, and unique threshold jewels. We've combined all of these together to create a new system called Transfigured Gems that allows us to fully achieve the goal of these 3 systems and then some. Transfigured Gems are alternative versions of existing skill gems that have different functionality and balance from their regular versions. We have added a huge number of these with interesting variations that drastically change how existing skills play. For example, Frostbomb of Instability. It changes it from a cooldown skill that you can cast occasionally for a large explosion into a skill that you can cast continuously but deals less damage and doesn't apply cold exposure. It changes the role of Frostbomb from a utility skill into a main damaging skill. Another example is Detonate Dead of Scavenging. You can't use it on corpses that were created by Desecrate or Unearth, but in exchange it does a whole lot more damage. You won't be able to use it as your main reliable source of damage, but it's a great skill to use as a 4-link utility to get some extreme burst damage. Raise Zombie of Falling. Instead of raising a zombie from a corpse, you summon them from mid-air. They fall to their death, dealing AoE damage where they land. While this sounds like a
直接
physical
摔
damage
死
version of
上
Firestorm,
校
you should consider that it scales with minion damage and also triggers on-death minion effects. Blight of Contagion. This version of Blight is now spread by Contagion, so you can use it as part of your Essence Drain build. We have a huge number of these. Transfigure Firestorm into Firestorm with Meteors, Transfigure Blade Trap into Blade Trap of Great
巨
Swords,
剑之剑
Transfigure
任
Barrage
陷
into
阱。
Barrage of Volley Fire, and so on. There is a lot to experiment with, and we look forward to seeing what builds you can come up with. But how do you get Transfigured Gems? The Divine Font at the end of the Eternal Labyrinth has been changed to a gem crafting device that can modify your skill and support gems in a lot of new ways. One of the options you can now choose is to turn a skill gem into one of 3 Transfigured Gems. But that isn't all the Divine Font can do. It has a lot of other gem crafting options you can use. For example, you can add quality to gems, add experience to gems, sacrifice a gem for 1 or more treasure keys to open Azara's chests, and you can even exchange support gems for exceptional support gems like Empower or Enlighten. These are just some of the options you'll find the Divine Font is now capable of. In order to replace the rewards in Heist that previously gave alternate quality gems, we have done a rebalance of the rewards of Heist as well. Experimented base types have been rebalanced, new replica uniques have been added and old ones changed, and we have increased the amount of currency from display cases as well. On top of this, we have gone through and buffed the quality stats on most damage dealing skills. In most cases, they will be significantly more powerful than before, and also more interesting. Overall, this is one of the largest metagame shifts that we've ever done. There are so many crazy new skill combinations to plan around, so we expect to see some really interesting new builds. Next up, I'd like to hand back over to Chris to talk about the new supporter packs.
哈，赞助包
At this point, we'd usually talk about the League supporter packs.
这结
We're
束了
doing
吗？
things a bit differently this year. Rather than releasing League supporter packs today and then our annual core packs 2 weeks later, we have combined it all together into a strong set of core supporter packs that will be released alongside Path of Exile Affliction next week. The series contains 5 packs, each with its full value in points and a collection of exclusive cosmetic microtransactions. The higher packs contain physical merchandise. We'll unveil the full details of each of the packs at release next
他们
week.
真的是这次
But
就
in the
只改一
meantime,
个
here's
系
a
统
sneak peek of some of their exclusive
他们这次就
cosmetic
真的是只改一个
microtransactions.
系统，然后怎么样把这个
These
系统
packs
变
will
得
be
超好
available
玩
for
的，
purchase when
对不
Path of
对？
Exile Affliction
是不是
launches
这样子
on
就会好玩
December
嘛？不要
7th.
再
Thank you
东
so
改一
much
点
for
西
your
改一
ongoing
点
support.
Oh my god！
We're just about to start the Q&A with Ggg. Afterwards, we'll post Path of Exile Affliction's full patch notes. With the release at the end of next week, our community team will be posting crucial information you'll need for Affliction's release. Keep an eye on the news. On release weekend, we expect to launch the new mystery box and this season's Kyrix Vault Pass. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments. We're looking forward to exploring the Viridian Wildwood with you next week. We'll begin the Q&A shortly, so
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! 还没有 PN， 还没有 PN。哦，干，我好开心哦！干，你们知道吗？干，我真的好久没有觉得 POE 会这么好玩了。干，真的轮盘可以删掉嘞！轮盘可以删掉了，下一季是一个全新的。Oh my god！哦，我好开心哦！God， 真的，恭喜恭喜所有喜欢 POE 的朋友们！ POE 再次干，为什么我在播这个人家的广告？等一下，对不起，亮大，你们知道吗？我先分享一下我看完，最一开始是讲那个 POE 的那个下一季的赛季内容嘛，赛季内容光是赛季内容，我其实愿意给到9.5分，玩法没有到非常特别，可是他给了3个副职业，而且这3个副职业都有非常完整的新玩法，所以光是这个部分我就可以给到9.5分了。但是看完后面新的就是他们翻新技能宝石系统，其实我会回头把赛季分数改成8分，然后我会给技能宝石系统9.5分。 因为看完后面之后，我会发现，其实我不知道你们有没有这样的感觉，但是我觉得我们一直以来经过了这么多废季，这么废的赛季，我觉得我对 POE 改版的标准下降太多了，降低太多了，我的标准变得超低了。像这样子的赛季内容，大概就是以前就会觉得哇很好玩很好玩，但是就这样而已，不可能是给9.5分，所以我觉得8分，可能再低一点，但就8分。然后，干这个技能宝石哦，但是还是不能太乐观啦，我觉得。至少目前听下来，我给9.5分，好不好？啊，至于后面，我觉得可玩性的部分还是要看 PN， 因为要看他们到底给出了多少的变化去玩，好不好？所以我们期待 PN， 现在5点，然后访谈结束后。会释出这个 PN 的部分，那我们就等。而且大部分的人，你们应该包括我啦，我们可能都需要等编年史的工作人员，等他们把翻译的内容贴上来，那我们可能才能知道。对，基本上那些技能应该是中期才有得用。其实要看啦，但是你想要特定的，前面应该也不好拿。每一个技能都至少有一个变化，我觉得不难。其实每一个技能有一个变化，我觉得不难。可是要看那一个变化好不好玩，你知道，就是它还是就像是它每一季都有新技能没错啊，可是它出连结技能的那一季，你会觉得它有出新技能吗？就是没有，所以凑数的情况我觉得还是会存在，但是我们可以期待很多，比如说像是水世界，像是虚无域这种本身存在的巨大限制的技能。我们可以期待它有一个可玩的玩法。然后，好，我们现在可以来对考卷了。来，本多夺魂钩索翻新，魅惑陷阱翻新。好像不能算你错，好像不能算你错。蟑螂吃怪群，越吃饱越好。这个也不能算你错。他那个蟑螂确实会跑到怪群身上，然后怪群越叠确实会越好。劈砍再加强，劈砍再加强。这个有待商榷，这个有待商榷，这个还有待商榷，好不好？这个有待商榷。其他的基本上你都中了，海豹直接下去，好不好？侠客根本连个屁都没提，但是也不一定 ，Patch Note 还没有出来，可是。依照以往的惯例来说，他们会把升华重置拿来当成一个噱头，放在重点里面才对。所以这次没有，那基本上应该就没有。寒焰不知道 ，PN 还没出来。魔改不知道。神域翻新吃屎啊！吃屎啊！神域。魔力流联盟也不知道。应该是没有啊，应该是没戏。等 PN 吧。瑞眼新增2D Life 啊，这是我帮他加的。蟑螂Ggg棒，其实也蛮像Ggg棒的，只是你没有要闪，是那些虫会闪你。所以看看末日厄运以某种方式复活，干！我现在觉得很有可能。我现在觉得很有可能末日厄运会以3号不知道为什么就复活。 干喵古尼尔这个太强了，喵古尼尔这太强了。新的召唤物相关技能，这个在发布会开始前就中了，傻小。
At the risk of going like
流血增强，
I already noticed in previous
不知道
reviews
看
that like
PN
melee stuff is getting a lot more
魔改
fluid,
会
a lot
改
more movement
寒
and
焰
stuff
也
like
会
that. A
改
lot of that was
不知道看 PN 死灵重置
but modifiable
哈哈
movements after the fact where you could like whirl and then change direction a little bit like that. But it seems like now even you might even be able to have things like your characters able to
散打间接被砍。等下问一下实况怒，实况怒还在吗？请问
gameplay a lot.
猎魔被移除算是散打间接被砍吗？
Like I wouldn't want it so that every skill you can just do without like while moving arbitrarily. Like it needs
算了
to feel like there's at least some amount of the animation where you're kind of like locked into that little bit. So for something like cleave, for example, what I do is you can kind of step in.
有没有觉得自己讲话很准？有的时候也不是什么好事啊。
You need a bit of that sort of like locked in just so that you got something going on there. Because otherwise it'll just feel like you kind of don't really exist. You're just like floating around, kind of not really doing anything. So it's a little bit vague, but. Effectively, I just want to avoid the kind of feeling where where you don't feel like you're a real character in the world, which you can get if you just allow full unrestricted. Like, if you do absolutely everything while moving and there was no slowdowns or anything, it would feel real floaty, and I don't like that either. So you know, it can be a little bit of an interesting one. You have to really look at the feel of every single skill and kind of get the timing windows exactly right for everything.
保险箱改强，
Really solid and good.
新的毒技能应该是算中了，保险箱改强没有。 K 蹦6点前会睡着，我觉得我得老实说，宇智，你的预言非常有可能成真。近战加强，不知道。可是他刚刚展示那个特殊技能的时候，有展示到近战，虽然我不知道他是在给近战面子，还是真的觉得自己有 buff 到近战。会有新的拿绿球手段，是有，确实有。 确实有。
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the split to all of the classes happened after that last the last reveal, and so then we were
新的拿绿球手段，刚刚有一个偷绿球嘛，追猎一定砍。其实我老实讲，我觉得追猎有被砍，因为大家都变成药娘，大家都是药娘的话，药娘就被砍。嘿嘿嘿嘿。近战大改，近战延年。
If we're like a crossbow, like if you pull the trigger on a crossbow, it needs to fire instantly.
恭喜
We should be putting the contact point literally at 0 on the animation. So this is a bit of a technical term, but contact point just means point where the damage happens.
简中实况会有存档吗？我的实况会有存档。
Things you know would need to change. And we actually found there was like a grab bag, like
你要看吗？
a grab bag of issues.
我可以等一下关台去把它设成公开。
Off topic, but it's like. The amount of engine brokenness that the
我觉得新的那个太强了哎，
brought to the front was so high.
新的那个太强了，就是那个可以自由选配升华那个。你有看到它一个格子里面可以放密速爆炸加奉献地面留存2秒，就你知道吗？它光是给你这一个东西。 就已经够夸张了，它是可以全部拿来开，就是你有看到它的点数的路线嘛？你是可以选择整条开满的，但是你好像就没有办法点其他能力，但是你可以开，等于说你可以开到3格。 这种随机的，然后你可以用任何的升华去搭配这些随机天赋。对，那些东西应该是可交易，或者是玩家间不可，然后你只能靠自己刷，就像是什么香炉圣物那一季那个。
To see the problems, and you know there was a lot of like frame by frame,
所以
like making sure that every single frame.
你知道吗？这一季就是
yeah, it was pretty crazy during the development of this stuff.
全都乱套了。
I love how the
我会这样形容这一季，
improvements.
全都乱套了。
So on the crossbows, I noticed that they have the new like skill bound to the weapon thing where they fire different.
本来这个游戏充满高自由度，是因为它有设立规则，然后它在这一季，它把这些规则 全部丢掉
or just kind of more ammo
然后
types
跟你
that
说
modify the base skills.
你就玩吧。
So there's definitely going to be more ammo types. There will be
对，所以才超好玩，因为他会非常的疯狂，大家都习惯被约束，但是这一季大家会变得疯狂。
But they have support gems and everything like that. And effectively, whenever we want to have a crossbow skill, as it were, that isn't related to one of those primary firing types, then that
好不好？
would be
大家期待啊！
And,
其实我想要去睡觉了，我觉得我应该等不到 PN 释出。就算我等到了，我可能也懒得看。哎，我有了，大家记得要去领哦，好不好？大家记得去领宝物。应该就这样了啦。K7 要去剪片了，对不对？我把人丢给K7，我要去睡觉了。明天起床，看完之后，我再看要写些什么。对啊，起床看 PN。哦，对，还有预测有没有新技能？这不是他妈在说笑吗？当然是有啊。这他妈的寒霜爆不用 CD， 这不叫新技能，叫什么？好啦，睡啦。干！我没有想到我会这么开心欸！我原本以为我会蛮开心的而已，没想到这么开心。让我喝一天水，靠腰。好啦，那我们去找 K7 玩吧。那我会咒爆开吗？当然不会啊，咒爆没有啦，看 PN 啦。但咒爆本身的问题还是一样，还是存在哦。谁点喝水？好啦 ，Mr， 大家那个可以早点休息啊。不管你英文好不好，反正你现在去睡饱，醒来就有中文看了。就算你的第二外语是英文，你看中文还是比较快，好不好？早点休息。唐生在等我的片，他可以等晚一点啊。没有啊，我中午就醒了啊，然后我就把片剪了，对不对？哦，大家可以挂一下 K7 的台，然后或是去睡觉，或是2个同时做。好啦，太棒了，大家3.23，耶！拜拜。